At the pinnacle of Chicago's luxury hospitality scene stood Ethan Caldwell, the formidable CEO of the Grand Meridian Hotel. With a steely gaze and an impeccable presence, Ethan embodied the essence of authority and success. Towering over 6 feet tall, his tailored navy suit and perfectly styled salt and pepper hair announced a man who commanded respect. Without question, every inch of the Grand Meridian reflected his exacting standards. From the gleaming marble floors to the sparkling crystal chandeliers that bathed the lobby in an elegant glow. For Ethan, the hotel wasn't just a business. It was a carefully curated sanctuary. For the city's elite, a symbol of refined taste and exclusivity. Ethan's approach to leadership was defined by an unwavering commitment to maintaining this pristine image. He believed that preserving the hotel's reputation required strict control, especially when it came to managing the delicate balance between luxury and discretion. Every challenge or potential disruption had to be anticipated and neutralized swiftly to ensure the seamless experience expected by their high-profile guests. His office, perched on the 42nd floor, offered a commanding view of the city, a daily reminder of the empire he had built, and the high stakes of his role. In Ethan's world, perfection was non-negotiable, and the protection of the Grand Meridian's 5-star status was paramount. His confidence and precision made him a leader few dared to question. Yet beneath that polished exterior lay a man whose rigid adherence to standards sometimes blinded him to the complexities of the people who passed through his doors. It was this very rigidity that set the stage for a confrontation that would challenge everything Ethan thought he knew about leadership, fairness, and true hospitality. Dr. Maya Reynolds was no ordinary guest. As a highly accomplished black woman with an impressive academic and professional background, she had recently been appointed Regional Director for International Grandeur Holdings, tasked with overseeing and evaluating their flagship property, the prestigious Grand Meridian Hotel. Maya's arrival at the hotel was supposed to mark the beginning of an important chapter in her career, one where her expertise and leadership would influence a major player in the luxury hospitality industry. Yet, the moment she stepped through the grand revolving doors, the welcome she anticipated was nowhere to be found. Dressed impeccably in a burgundy blazer and white silk blouse, Maya carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had fought tirelessly to reach this point. Her natural curls framed a face that bore the marks of intelligence and determination, and her sharp brown eyes held the kind of focus that could command boardrooms and influence high-level decisions. Despite her credentials and the confirmation of her reservation through the company's executive booking system, the front desk staff hesitated when she introduced herself. They searched the system repeatedly, each time failing to locate her name or reservation. The polite smiles that greeted her initially faltered, replaced by uneasy glances and whispered conversations. When the front desk manager approached, Maya remained composed but firm, presenting her confirmation number and explaining her role within International Grandeur Holdings. However, the skepticism she faced was palpable. The manager suggested that the confirmation number might be fraudulent, hinting at the possibility that Maya had fallen victim to a scam. The accusation hit like a cold wave, not just because it questioned her integrity, but because it cast her as an outsider in a space that should have recognized and respected her. To the watching guests and staff, she was suddenly no longer the accomplished executive, but a suspicious intruder, someone who did not belong in the hotel's rarefied atmosphere. The situation escalated quickly when Ethan Caldwell, the CEO of the Grand Meridian, personally intervened. Despite Maya's calm demeanor and clear evidence of her legitimate booking, Ethan's tone was dismissive, and his attitude suggested a presumption of guilt before any facts were established. His insistence on removing her from the premises, backed by security, was both public and humiliating. Guests averted their eyes, staff exchanged uncomfortable looks, and whispers rippled through the marble halls. Maya was forced to leave the hotel not as the powerful new regional director but as a wrongfully accused outsider, her dignity challenged in front of a crowd. Yet, beneath the surface of that moment, lay years of experience, navigating predominantly white spaces, of facing microaggressions and systemic bias masked as protocol or policy. Maya knew this was not an isolated incident but part of a deeper pattern of exclusion. The hotel, under Ethan's leadership, had fostered an environment where appearances and assumptions outweighed merit and evidence. This public dismissal was not just an affront to her personally, but a symptom of institutional barriers that countless people of color face daily. Though shaken by the incident, Maya's resolve only strengthened. She was determined not to let this humiliation define her or derail the vital work she was appointed to do. Behind the scenes, she prepared to turn this injustice into a catalyst for change, armed with the catalyst for change, knowledge, authority, and unwavering commitment to transform the culture of the very hotel that had rejected her. Maya Reynolds was no stranger to challenges, and this moment, painful as it was, would become the spark that ignited a powerful movement toward equity, accountability, and genuine hospitality. The moment Dr. Maya Reynolds approached the front desk of the Grand Meridian Hotel, what should have been a seamless check-in quickly spiraled into an ordeal that would define her arrival in the most humiliating way possible. Despite presenting her executive credentials and a confirmed reservation made directly through the corporate booking system reserved for top-level management, the hotel staff, led by the front desk manager, failed to recognize her status or validate her booking. Instead, they scrutinized her details with suspicion, repeatedly, searching their system only to find no record of her reservation. The polite professionalism that greeted her initially gave way to awkward silence and whispered doubts, signaling that something was deeply wrong. The front desk manager's voice held an unsettling tone as he suggested the possibility of fraud. He implied that Maya might have been the victim of a scam, questioning the legitimacy of her confirmation number. This accusation was not only factually incorrect but deeply insulting, casting a shadow of doubt over her integrity. It was a clear dismissal of her identity and professional standing, reducing a highly accomplished executive to someone suspected of deception. Around her, guests paused their conversations, staff exchanged uneasy glances, and the lobby's elegant atmosphere thickened with tension. At this critical moment, Ethan Caldwell, the hotel's CEO, intervened personally. Instead of seeking to understand or verify Maya's claims through proper channels, he took a confrontational stance. His demeanor was dismissive and authoritative, exuding confidence in using his judgment but lacking in empathy or open-mindedness. Without further investigation, he declared the reservation fraudulent and demanded that Maya leave the premises immediately. This directive came not quietly but publicly, with security personnel summoned to enforce expulsion. The sight of security escorting Maya from the hotel lobby was a powerful symbol of exclusion. Witnessed by patrons dressed in couture and tuxedos, it was an event that echoed with the unspoken message that she did not belong there. The humiliation was compounded by the silence and avoidance from staff and guests alike, eyes averted, hushed whispers filling the void, as if to pretend the incident was not happening. The very space that should have honored her role as a regional director became a stage for discrimination cloaked in bureaucratic procedure. This public rejection was not a mere misunderstanding or clerical error. It was symptomatic of deeper systemic biases that shaped the hotel's culture under Ethan's leadership. The readiness to dismiss Maya's authority and legitimacy was rooted in assumptions based on her race and appearance rather than facts or formal processes. The incident highlighted how institutional power structures can weaponize protocol to marginalize those who challenge the status quo. Despite the profound injustice, Maya remained composed. She understood that this moment, painful as it was, revealed the critical work ahead, dismantling ingrained prejudices and transforming the culture of an institution that prized exclusivity over inclusivity. Her forced removal was a catalyst, setting into motion a journey not just for personal vindication but for systemic change within the luxury hospitality industry. Maya Reynolds was not simply a stage crobodest victim that evening, she was the beginning of a reckoning. Despite the public humiliation and the shock of being forcibly removed from the Grand Meridian Hotel, Dr. Maya Reynolds did not break. As she stood in the lobby, facing the eyes of guests and staff who had witnessed the incident, a fierce determination burned within her. Her composure was unshaken, her posture proud and unwavering. Though the atmosphere was thick with judgment and whispers, Maya refused to shrink or let the moment define her. Instead, she used it as a powerful assertion of her dignity and resolve. Before turning to leave, she addressed Ethan Caldwell with calm but unyielding clarity. Her voice cut through the murmur of the crowd, like a sharp blade, as she warned him to remember. This moment, the moment he had chosen to dismiss her, to deny her rightful place, not only as a guest, but as a respected corporate executive. There was no anger or spite in her words, only the quiet certainty of someone who knew her worth, and the impact of what had just transpired. The subtle but deliberate challenge in her tone left no doubt that this was not a scene to be forgotten or dismissed lightly. Ethan, who had been confident in his authority moments before, found himself unsettled by Maya's words. There was an unmistakable edge to her warning, as if she were predicting a reckoning yet to come. His usual composure faltered, and for the first time, the certainty in his eyes wavered. Yet, true to his role, he masked his discomfort with a dismissive laugh and a wave, signaling the security team to escort Maya out. It was a dismissal not just of her presence, but of the gravity of the moment itself. But Maya's retreat was far from defeat. Each step she took away from the hotel was filled with the strength of someone who had refused to be broken by injustice. She understood all too well the subtle ways in which people like her were made to feel unwelcome in spaces that should have been open and inclusive. This moment was not just about a mistaken reservation, it was a microcosm of the systemic barriers that countless professionals of color face daily. Yet, instead of retreating into silence or shame, Maya transformed the encounter into a grand declaration of resilience. Behind the scenes, this episode ignited in her a renewed commitment to fight for change. The humiliation she endured became a catalyst, fueling her determination to expose the deeply ingrained biases that tainted the very foundation of the luxury hospitality world. She resolved to use her position, knowledge, and voice to challenge these injustices head-on. Her warning to Ethan was not merely personal, it was prophetic, signaling the start of a journey toward accountability and transformation. Maya Reynolds walked away that night carrying her head high, embodying the power of Tixley, a resistance in the face of discrimination. Her grace under pressure was a testament to her character and a powerful message to all who witness injustice. Dignity cannot be taken. It must be upheld, fiercely and unwaveringly. And for Ethan Caldwell, that moment would linger long after she had gone, a reminder that actions, especially those rooted in prejudice, have consequences that demand reckoning. Following the public incident involving Dr. Maya Reynolds, International Grandeur Holdings launched a thorough and unflinching investigation into the culture and practices of the Grand Disgrace Meridian Hotel. The initial scrutiny began with a review of security footage from the evening in question, which captured every moment of the confrontation between Maya and the hotel staff. As corporate security experts and legal counsel carefully analyzed the high-definition videos, a disturbing pattern emerged, one that went far beyond the singular incident. The footage revealed subtle, yet unmistakable signs of implicit bias and prejudgment on the part of the hotel management and staff, setting the tone for a deeper inquiry. Simultaneously, internal records were scrutinized, uncovering a trove of previously overlooked complaints filed by guests of color over the past 2 years. These complaints detailed experiences of discrimination, exclusion, and microaggressions, from unwarranted questioning of reservations and loyalty status, to dismissive and hostile customer service. Remarkably, at least 47 distinct cases were documented, each illustrating a facet of systemic bias woven into the hotel's daily operations. However, what was most alarming was not just the existence of these incidents but the pattern of their concealment. Management consistently downplayed or dismissed the complaints as misunderstandings or isolated errors, failing to escalate them to corporate leadership or implement meaningful corrective action. Interviews with staff members added another layer of insight. Some employees confessed that they felt pressured to maintain a particular atmosphere, one that subtly enforced exclusivity and discouraged certain demographics from feeling truly welcome. Others, like the front desk manager, Gerald Simmons, had painstakingly kept personal records of discriminatory encounters, hoping that someone in authority would eventually listen. His detailed logs included names, dates, and descriptions, painting a picture of a deeply ingrained culture resistant to change. Gerald's evidence was instrumental in revealing how local management's investigative processes were compromised by bias and a desire to protect the siloed hotel's image at all costs. The corporate diversity and inclusion officer, Dr. Aisha Patel, who joined the investigation, brought expert analysis of the data and interviews. Drawing on her background in organizational psychology and implicit bias, she concluded that the hotel was exhibiting a .9 textbook case of institutional discrimination. The overall guest satisfaction scores had remained stable, masking a sharp decline, 23%, specifically among minority guests. During Ethan Caldwell's tenure as CEO, this disconnect highlighted how surface-level metrics can obscure serious underlying problems. Dr. Patel emphasized that the discrimination was not always overt or conscious, but often manifested through death by 1,000 cuts, a series of minor but cumulative actions that alienated guests of color and eroded their loyalty. The findings stunned the corporate board. What was initially framed as an isolated incident now unfolded as a systemic failure, revealing a culture that had allowed exclusion and prejudice to persist unchecked. The investigation underscored the urgent need for comprehensive reform, not only in policies and training, but in the fundamental mindset that had permeated the Grand Meridian under its leadership. It was clear that to restore trust, true excellence, the hotel had to confront these uncomfortable truths and commit to transformative change, beginning with the very individual who had once presided over this troubling legacy. In the wake of the shocking revelations about systemic discrimination at the Grand Meridian Hotel, International Grandeur Holdings, IGH, took decisive and unprecedented action. Recognizing the gravity of the situation and the potential legal, financial, and reputational fallout, the corporation launched a formal investigation into the culture and management practices of their flagship property. This was not a routine review, but a high-priority, executive-level inquiry aimed at uncovering the full extent of the issues and implementing meaningful change. At the center of this transformative effort was Dr. Maya Reynolds, whose courage and expertise had brought the problem to light. IGH's leadership quickly endorsed the adoption of a comprehensive bias training program, a curriculum originally developed by Maya during her master's thesis in organizational leadership and hospitality management. The program was designed to identify, understand, and dismantle unconscious biases that permeate service industries, particularly within luxury hospitality. Unlike generic sensitivity workshops, Maya's training was grounded in rigorous academic research and practical strategies tailored specifically for high-end hotel environments. It emphasized not only awareness but also actionable steps to foster inclusion, equity, and respect across every level of the organization. The rollout of this program marked a significant shift in IGH's corporate culture. Rather than treating discrimination as isolated incidents or misunderstandings, the company committed to acknowledging and addressing the systemic roots of bias that had long gone unchallenged. Dr. Aisha Patel, IGH's newly appointed Director of Diversity and Inclusion, worked closely with Maya to adapt the training for all properties within the portfolio. Their approach included mandatory sessions for executives, managers, and frontline staff alike, combined with ongoing assessments to ensure lasting impact. The initiative was not without resistance. Some employees and even senior managers initially resisted the idea, perceiving it as a threat to established norms or an unnecessary disruption to daily operations. However, the program's evidence-based design and clear links to improving guest satisfaction, employee morale, and revenue quickly won over skeptics. Early data from pilot sites showed promising results, including increased bookings from diverse clientele, improved employee retention, and a more positive workplace atmosphere. IGH's leadership, publicly committed to transparency and accountability, publishing regular progress reports, and inviting external audits to maintain trust with stakeholders. Beyond training, the corporation also instituted new policies to improve complaint reporting and resolution. No longer would accusations of discrimination be buried or dismissed at the local level. Instead, a centralized system was created to track incidents across all properties, allowing corporate leadership to identify patterns, intervene promptly, and hold individuals accountable. This structural reform ensured that the failures seen at the Grand Meridian would not be repeated elsewhere. Dr. Maya Reynolds emerged, not only as a key figure in IGH's recovery but also as a symbol of the power of expertise combined with courage. Her academic work, long overlooked, became the blueprint for meaningful industry-wide change. The corporation's willingness to embrace her insights and leadership signaled a new era, one where inclusivity and excellence were not mutually exclusive but essential partners. For IGH, the scandal had become a catalyst for transformation, proving that even entrenched corporate cultures can evolve when guided by truth, justice, and the resolve to do better. The fallout for Ethan Caldwell was swift and unforgiving. Once the respected CEO of the Grand Meridian Hotel, his career unraveled almost overnight as the full extent of his discriminatory behavior came to light. The board of International Grandeur Holdings, alarmed by the mounting evidence and public outcry, made the unanimous decision to terminate his employment immediately. Unlike typical executive departures that might include severance packages or transitional support, Ethan's dismissal was for cause, a clear statement that the Cartini company would not tolerate the systemic racism and exclusion he had perpetuated under his leadership. Ethan's reputation, carefully built over years of industry recognition and business success, was shattered. What had once been seen as meticulous management and an unwavering commitment to standards was now exposed as a thin veil masking decades of prejudice and bias. Media outlets seized upon the story, amplifying the voices of those affected by the hotel's culture of discrimination and casting Ethan as the face of an outdated, exclusionary mindset. Social media campaigns trended under hashtags denouncing the Grand Meridian and calling for broader industry reforms, further intensifying the pressure on the company and its former CEO. Legal ramifications quickly followed. Civil rights organizations began investigating potential violations, citing multiple guest complaints that had been ignored or suppressed. The hotel faced not only lawsuits but also the threat of federal inquiries into systemic discrimination. For Ethan, this meant that his personal and professional life was under unprecedented scrutiny. His past decisions, once lauded for driving profitability, were now dissected for their damaging impact on guests and staff alike. Beyond the public condemnation and legal challenges, Ethan faced the harsh reality of professional exile. In the tightly knit hospitality industry, word travels fast, and news of his termination for discriminatory practices made him a pariah. Job offers disappeared, professional networks distanced themselves, and his legacy was tarnished beyond repair. The non-compete clause in his contract ensured that he could not easily transition to a rival company, leaving him with limited options and a career effectively over. The personal toll was immense. Once confident and assured, Ethan struggled to reconcile his past actions with the consequences he now faced. His fall from grace was not merely about losing a job. It was about confronting the harmful beliefs and behaviors he had allowed to fester. Isolated and shunned, he faced the daunting task of reflecting on the damage caused to individuals like Dr. Maya Reynolds and countless others, as well as to the broader community and the institution he once led. This dramatic downfall sent a powerful message across the industry. Discrimination, no matter how deeply entrenched or hidden behind standards, would no longer be tolerated. Ethan Caldwell's story became a cautionary tale of how unchecked biases and the refusal to embrace inclusivity can destroy not only reputations but entire careers. The board's decisive action underscored a shift in corporate responsibility, signaling that leaders must be held accountable for fostering environments of respect and equity. In losing everything, Ethan was forced to confront a painful truth: success built on exclusion is unsustainable. The legal battles and public disgrace were harsh but necessary steps toward justice and change. As the Grand Meridian began to rebuild under new leadership, the industry watched closely, reminded that true hospitality means welcoming all guests with dignity, respect, and fairness. After losing his position as CEO of the Grand Meridian Hotel, Ethan Caldwell faced an uncertain and humbling path ahead. Stripped of the power, prestige, and financial security he once took for granted, he was forced to confront the consequences of years of unchecked biases and discriminatory decisions. The fall from grace was profound, but rather than retreating into denial or bitterness, Ethan embarked on a journey of deep self-reflection and transformation. For the first time, he began to acknowledge the unconscious prejudices that had shaped his behavior and the toxic culture he had allowed to flourish under his watch. Ethan's path to redemption was neither quick nor easy. He sought out community organizations focused on social justice and equity, volunteering his time to support marginalized groups and gain a first-hand understanding of the challenges they faced. This grassroots engagement opened his eyes to realities far beyond the insulated world of luxury hospitality. Meeting families struggling to find affordable housing, immigrants overcoming barriers, and single parents working multiple jobs challenged Ethan's previous assumptions and compelled him to rethink his worldview. These experiences ignited a sincere desire to make amends, not just through words but through sustained action. Alongside his community work, Ethan committed to rigorous educational programs designed to uncover and address implicit bias. He enrolled in workshops and seminars led by experts in diversity, equity, and inclusion, learning how unconscious stereotypes can influence decision-making, often without awareness. The training was both eye-opening and uncomfortable, forcing him to recognize the subtle ways in which he had judged others based on race, appearance, and background. Ethan came to understand that good intentions were not enough. True change required continuous effort, humility, and accountability. His transformation extended beyond personal growth to a public role as well. Ethan began speaking candidly at hospitality conferences and industry events, sharing his story as a cautionary tale and an example of the difficult but necessary work involved in confronting prejudice. His honesty about past failures, combined with his commitment to change, resonated with audiences and sparked important conversations about diversity and inclusion within traditionally exclusive spaces. Although not universally embraced, his willingness to be vulnerable and advocate for reform marked a significant departure from his former defensive posture. Ethan also worked closely with Dr. Maya Reynolds and the International Grandeur Holdings leadership to support the implementation of the new bias training programs across all properties. His involvement signaled a meaningful effort to use his experience to help prevent others from repeating the same mistakes. While he could never erase the harm caused, Ethan's ongoing dedication to learning and advocacy became a testament to the possibility of redemption when met with genuine intention and action. Through months of introspection, education, and community engagement, Ethan Caldwell's journey illustrated that accountability and transformation are complex but attainable. His story underscored that losing status and privilege can serve as catalysts for profound personal change, and that confronting uncomfortable truths is essential for building more inclusive, equitable institutions. Though his career in luxury hospitality was over, Ethan found a new purpose, one grounded in humility, empathy, and a commitment to making amends, not just for himself, but for the wider community he once overlooked. Following the turmoil that had rocked the Grand Meridian Hotel, Dr. Maya Reynolds rose to a position of leadership that marked a new era for the institution. Appointed as the interim regional director for International Grandeur Holdings North American Division, Maya was entrusted not only with restoring the hotel's reputation but also with spearheading a fundamental cultural transformación. Drawing on her expertise and the bias training program she had developed years earlier, she began a comprehensive initiative aimed at reshaping the Plaisance organization from the inside out. Maya's approach was holistic and strategic. She recognized that lasting change required more than surface-level adjustments. It demanded a shift in mindset, policies, and daily practices. Throughout every level of the company, she implemented mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees, from executive management to frontline staff, emphasizing the identification and mitigation of unconscious biases that had previously gone unaddressed. The program incorporated interactive workshops, real-world scenarios, and measurable outcomes to ensure that learning translated into meaningful action. Under Maya's leadership, the hotel began to cultivate a genuinely inclusive environment. Recruitment and promotion policies were overhauled to prioritize diversity, equity, and fairness. Employee resource groups and mentorship programs were established to support underrepresented staff and encourage cross-cultural collaboration. Regular assessments and feedback mechanisms were introduced to monitor progress and hold leaders accountable for maintaining an equitable workplace. Maya fostered an atmosphere where open dialogue was encouraged, and discriminatory behavior was no longer tolerated or swept under the rug. The tangible results of these efforts soon became apparent. Guest satisfaction scores rose significantly across all demographic groups, reflecting a broader sense of welcome and respect within the hotel. Notably, bookings from minority clientele increased markedly, reversing previous declines and signaling a restored trust in the brand. Employee engagement and retention improved as well, as staff members felt seen, valued, and empowered to contribute their best work. The company's financial performance mirrored these gains, with revenue growth surpassing expectations and solidifying the Grand Meridian's position as a leader in luxury hospitality. Maya's impact extended beyond the walls of the Grand Meridian. Her success became a setting model for other properties within International Grandeur Holdings and across the industry. The bias training program and inclusive policies she championed were adopted by multiple hotels, sparking a wave of positive change that challenged long-standing norms in the sector. Industry leaders began to acknowledge that diversity and inclusion were not only moral imperatives but also critical drivers of business excellence and innovation. Despite the challenges she faced, including resistance from some entrenched interests, Maya remained resolute and focused. Her leadership combined academic rigor, practical experience, and heartfelt commitment, inspiring both colleagues and competitors alike. By transforming the culture and practices of the Grand Meridian, she demonstrated that true hospitality is rooted in dignity, respect, and belonging for all guests and employees. In reclaiming the space that once rejected her, Dr. Maya Reynolds not only changed a hotel, but also rewrote the narrative of leadership and inclusion in luxury hospitality. Her story stands as a testament to the power of perseverance, expertise, and vision in driving meaningful social and organizational transformation. Under her guidance, the Grand Meridian did not just regain its prestige, it became a beacon of progress, proving that embracing diversity enriches both people and profits. The incident involving Dr. Maya Reynolds and the Grand Meridian Hotel quickly ignited a firestorm of discussion across social media and the wider hospitality industry. As news spread about the blatant discrimination and public humiliation she endured, the story resonated deeply with people nationwide. Hashtags related to the Grand Meridian's discriminatory practices trended on platforms like Twitter and Instagram, with hundreds of guests, employees sharing their own experiences of bias and exclusion in luxury hotels. The conversation transcended a single hotel or city, sparking a broader reckoning within an industry long criticized for its lack of diversity and inclusion. Public reaction was swift and vocal. Consumers expressed outrage over the systemic prejudice that had been exposed, demanding accountability and real change. Advocacy groups and civil rights organizations amplified the story, calling for stricter regulations and industry-wide reforms to combat racial bias. The widespread attention placed pressure on not only the 70-and-over Grand Meridian but also other luxury hotel chains to re-evaluate their cultures and policies. Investors, corporate partners, and clients closely monitored how International Grandeur Holdings would respond, signaling that reputation and ethics were becoming inseparable in business success. The ripple effects extended beyond criticism. Maya's leadership and the comprehensive bias training program she introduced became a beacon of hope and a blueprint for other companies aiming to foster inclusivity. Hospitality brands began to adopt similar initiatives, recognizing that diversity and equity were not just moral imperatives but also business necessities that enhanced guest satisfaction and employee engagement. Industry conferences and forums featured discussions about implicit bias, equitable hiring practices, and culturally responsive service, signaling a new era of awareness and commitment. Moreover, the story inspired a wave of empowerment among employees and guests alike. Those who had previously felt marginalized found validation in seeing their experiences acknowledged at such a high level. The incident encouraged more individuals to speak out against discrimination and advocate for respectful treatment in their workplaces and communities. Maya's journey from exclusion to leadership served as a powerful example of resilience and change, motivating others to challenge systemic barriers. In essence, what began as a personal injustice evolved into a catalyst for transformation. The Grand Meridian scandal became a landmark moment in hospitality history, a turning point that forced the industry to confront uncomfortable truths and to embrace diversity and inclusion as integral to its identity and future. Through widespread social engagement and corporate accountability, the incident reshaped the conversation about what true hospitality means in the 21st century. Months after the storm surrounding the Grand Meridian Hotel had settled, Dr. Maya Reynolds made a decision that surprised many. She chose to meet with Ethan Caldwell, the former CEO whose actions had ignited the crisis. What began as a meeting filled with tension soon evolved into a powerful dialogue about accountability, growth, and the possibility of redemption. Maya approached this encounter with measured grace and clear purpose: to offer Ethan a chance to transform his past mistakes into a tool for positive change. Recognizing the sincerity in Ethan's efforts to understand and confront his unconscious biases, Maya proposed a unique opportunity. Rather than simply condemning him or closing the door on his future, she invited him to become a speaker for International Grandeur Holdings' newly established bias awareness and inclusion program. In this role, Ethan would share his story candidly, not as a figure of shame, but as a testament to the hard work and commitment required to unlearn prejudice and foster inclusion. His narrative would serve as a warning and inspiration, helping others in the industry avoid the pitfalls that had cost him his career. This offer was more than a professional second chance. It was a symbol of forgiveness and transformation. Maya understood that real change requires not only confronting systemic issues but also embracing the humanity of those willing to change. By giving Ethan a platform to educate and advocate, she demonstrated that redemption is possible when accompanied by genuine accountability and sustained effort. For Ethan, it was an opportunity to rebuild his reputation and contribute meaningfully to an industry that he had once harmed. Their conversations laid the groundwork for a partnership rooted in mutual respect and shared Goals. Ethan committed to continuing his education and remaining actively engaged in diversity and inclusion initiatives. Maya, in turn, provided guidance and oversight to ensure that his contributions aligned with the company's mission of equity and justice. Together, they embodied a new model of leadership, one that valued growth over punishment and viewed mistakes as catalysts for progress. The impact of their collaboration extended beyond the walls of the Grand Meridian. Ethan's talks at conferences and corporate events sparked honest conversations about implicit bias, privilege, and systemic barriers. His willingness to publicly own his failings encouraged others to examine their own behaviors and biases. Meanwhile, Maya's leadership ensured that the lessons learned translated into tangible policies and cultural shifts across the organization. Ultimately, their partnership stood as a powerful reminder that forgiveness and transformation are essential components of lasting change. By choosing to work together, Maya Reynolds and Ethan Caldwell turned a painful chapter into a story of hope, proving that even the deepest wounds can lead to healing when met with courage, humility, and a commitment to justice. The true message of this story is that real change begins with courage, the courage to confront our own biases and the systemic prejudices embedded within institutions. It requires more than just acknowledgement. It demands persistent action and unwavering commitment to build workplaces where fairness, respect, and opportunity are the norm for everyone. Dr. Maya Reynolds' journey shows us that transforming a culture resistant to inclusion is challenging but possible when leaders choose to face uncomfortable truths head-on. It is a reminder that progress is not a single moment, but a continuous effort to create environments where every individual's dignity is honored and their potential nurtured. In life, the greatest transformations often come from the hardest conversations, those moments when we look inward, confront our fears and flaws, and choose to do better despite setbacks. Courage isn't the absence of fear or failure, but the resolve to move forward. Anyway, knowing that true equity and justice require ongoing work. When we commit to standing up for fairness, not just for ourselves, but for those who are marginalized, we become part of a larger movement toward kindness, understanding, and shared humanity. Change is possible, but only if we dare to act with integrity and perseverance every day. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. What moments in your life have challenged you to confront difficult truths? Your voice could inspire others who are facing similar struggles. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories about courage, justice, and the triumph of human dignity. Together, we can create a world where everyone belongs.